Partner Ecosystem Expo is especially fantastic. And I think we're really fortunate to have as our lead speaker, Perin with AMS, who has his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the HR tech world and the HR Alliance world. And we're just honored to be able to have the start of such a wonderful day with hearing the remarks that Mio has for us. And with that, I'm just going to ask Mio to launch into the presentation, and we're delighted that you're kicking us off today for such a wonderful full day of events, Mio. And thank you for sharing your insights and your thoughts with us.
Thank you. Give me just a second here, and I will get the party started. All right. Can everybody see me in presentation mode here? Excellent. So, good morning, everybody. Super excited to be here, and I really hope that I'll have a chance to actually get through all the content that I've prepared. I kind of went crazy because I got so excited just about the opportunity for us to collaborate and share. So, I'm not so worried about all of the content because at the end of the day, as Ezra said and Ward, sometimes the conversation is even more fruitful. So as the questions come, I'll try to answer them. And if they're not relevant for the topic at hand, we can always push them back, but I'll try to get through everything. And if I don't get through it, you've got my phone number, you got my LinkedIn, and we can always connect and chat further, because this is what this is all about. So thanks again for joining. So I'm going to jump right in with one of my favorite new toys, which is, let's do a little icebreaker. And see some faces and smiles. So I'm glad that I see some folks on camera. But I wanted to start it off with a little geeky joke, courtesy of ChatGPT. Why did the talent acquisition tech cross the road? And as you can see, to keep up with the fast-paced evolution of the industry, of course, right? So even ChatGPT is on with our trend. So we are safe that AI is going to solve everything and we can just relax. Just kidding, but obviously it's interesting that this is already kind of the sentiment that even a robot is feeling. So jumping right in, my name is Mio. I'm based out of New York. I'm your typical HR tech geek, primarily in the talent acquisition space. I love schnitzel. As a matter of fact, I have a Facebook page dedicated to schnitzel called the Schnitzel Father. It's in the style of the Godfather. So if you love schnitzel, please join it. And here's my LinkedIn page. So happy to be here. Let's just jump right in. Couple of things that I really want to cover. Right, number one is evolution of the space. Hopefully, we'll give you a little bit of a roadmap or an idea of how we can have a good impact. And lastly, and most importantly, have a great discussion and connect with the peers and professionals that are here today. Jumping right into a little bit of AMS, I'd say I've just completed 1 year of AMS. Prior to that, I've primarily been on the other side. I've dabbled a couple of years in consulting. I've primarily been on the corporate side. So I've spent over 20 years working at Bertelsmann and at Foot Locker, basically delivering large-scale TA transformation initiatives. So it's interesting when you see a company like AMS and the impact that they have on the world of recruitment, right? So over 240,000 permanent hires, over 120 countries, 20 service centers worldwide, physical service centers delivering, RPO and tech advisory. And we speak over 50 languages. And I live that every day. And I'm super excited as myself being a immigrant in the US, we're a multilingual household. My wife's from St. Petersburg. I'm from Romania. So, our kids speak 4 languages out of the bat between English and Spanish in school and 2 other languages. So this multi-culti aspect for me is really critical, but it also speaks to the world that we work in with remote work, with hybrid work, with all of these different changing aspects and how teams are positioned. So couldn't be a better time for this kind of working environment. And we are very TA focused. And I think this is kind of where it gets really interesting, right? we are pure play talent acquisition heritage, right? And all of our investment is around TA, and that's our sole focus. And at the same time, DEI is this kind of underpinning because it's so critical to us as a business, but it's also critical to every single client that we touch and work with on a daily basis. And our partnerships are literally all TA leaders. And so it's super exciting because we're literally kind of eating, breathing, smelling, sweating TA. That's our thing. Um, and on top of that, right, if you look at kind of like the total space, we dabble very heavily in everything from your total workforce solution to branding, RPO, talent strategy, you know, traditional advisory projects, and a ton of automation, right? And we really believe wholeheartedly, that that the success is really about a combination of tech and process, underlined by strong people, strong teams, good training, and all that good stuff, right? And so we have a lot of tech, a strong understanding of the global economy, a lot of brand-led experience, and a lot of analytics. You know, at AMS, and you'll see this if you go to some of our website, they call this workforce dexterity, true workforce dexterity. So it's a hard concept to kind of take in, but at the end of the day, it's really about people and tech coming together to be resilient, to be strong, and to be agile. And I think this is really strong and beautiful way to work. Um, Getting into this space, right? I mean, we have nearly $10 billion invested in talent tech during the last couple of years. And, you know, it's clear the noise is there. It is pretty much impossible, not only from a, let's say, consumer side, but even us as a business, right? It's hard to understand all the technology that's going on, who's really delivering what does everybody do, right? And, you know, if I can see, like some like buttons or anything, right? How many of you have heard or stated this, right? We are the greatest tool on the market. We are the fastest tool on the market. We're the first to do this. And it's on my roadmap. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be done next month. It's on the roadmap. Of course, it's happening, right? It's common. It's normal. It's natural. And this is kind of what's happening in the space, which makes it really challenging. And at the same time, we can all agree, right? Tech is super critical to our success as a business. Our business of offering tech and businesses utilizing tech, we have the same problems because we as sellers and those as consumers, we're inverting at some point. And so this challenge is common and is universal. And at AMS, and this is kind of around our platform, right? We've looked at thousands of providers in the HR tech space from every single angle, right? And there is good news. Our experience has never been more important. Um, all of these technologies can be and play an important role in the right setting, with the right connection, with the right understanding, and it's making those matches correct. And so we built a taxonomy to kind of demystify um, some of this categorization, right? And so we've added strong categorization that we've broken down into features and then further broke it down into differentiating and common and unique. And so we start with everything, right? From sourcing, looking at search and looking at different social tools and various technology, going into the job ad space, which is totally blown up because the way we're presenting information is changing daily because new platforms are opening up, new channels, new apps. So keeping up with that is super critical because the people we want to target might be on a channel we have not connected with yet. So this aspect of keeping up is super critical, but then also helping businesses and clients align with having the right match. That's the critical part so that we can help um, people find each other, right? It's kind of like the the Match.com for vendors and clients. And then looking at engagement, right? And the CRM and the bots and virtual events and selection is an entire world of itself with interview and matching and all sorts of different assessments that do different things and work in different ways and connect in different avenues. And then, of course, on your hire piece, the contingent worker space, compliance system, and the lieu of analytics layered into everything require a true level of taxonomy to make sense to the marketplace and to make the connections relevant. And of course, this means that the way TA works is changing daily, right? I cannot emphasize, companies cannot keep up with the pace. And at the same time, you know, candidates and recruiters are having challenges, right? Candidates are still stuck. And I do this every week. I go and I pick random blue chip companies and look at their experiences, right? Candidates are still stuck navigating poor experiences. And we have AI that's layered in there without any understanding, that's there to weed out candidates, but it's weeding out the wrong candidates. So the black hole exists. Recruiters don't have time to call everybody back. So the frustration builds up, and then people go on Glassdoor, and then there's a ripple effect. And then what ends up happening? Somebody gets an alert from an executive, says, well, there's a bad review on Glassdoor, go deal with it. So now we're stuck triaging instead of actually improving the rest of the experience. So bottlenecking is massive. And then job descriptions are copied from Indeed or LinkedIn from a competitor because we were too busy to take the time to build our own taxonomy and have the right understanding of what we're looking for and talking to the market. All of this requires heavy investment, heavy process, heavy technology, and a lot of work. And it requires a strategy and it requires operationalization so that there's longevity and stickiness, right? Because right now it's all friction. And what we all want to achieve in our ideal lives is a frictionless experience. It's one of my favorite sayings. And I think it's going to be there for a long time. How do we build frictionless experience in what we do? And you've heard me say this now of a bunch of times, right? Technology is only as good as the people and the process you build around it. To us, and this is a very much an AMS cultural thing, we very much value the human interaction element of this as much as we value the tech element of this. Both are critical. Both are critical. So with that, let me jump into a video. So the video takes my emotion on this and puts it in a good way. So this is really kind of what we eat and breathe here in the space. So let's keep going here. But before I get into some additional big picture items, any thoughts so far? Comments? Anybody disagree with me? All right. Ward, you'll keep me honest here if anybody shouts, as I'm not monitoring the chat, obviously. But so let's keep
no
moving
problem.
then.
No problem. No, it's all good. I mean, if they're not a shy crowd, so I think if they disagree, but It could happen. So stay on your toes.
And there's no virtual tomato you can throw using Zoom, but I have put that in as a feature request. So hopefully one day.
Hey, Mio.
Right.
Sure.
Mia,
Ezra.
since you opened it up, and this is fantastic, and I had not been very familiar with the broad offer, with AMS, and your insights and observations about not only the organization but the broader market are awesome. If you don't mind, does since we have companies here who are HR tech vendors, and certainly one of the things that came to my mind as you were describing AMS itself, is AMS, I don't mean you specifically, but is AMS in a position where they help clients with vendor selection and understanding what's out there in the market for certain solutions? And is that part of the offering that is in scope for the AMS breadth of service?
Absolutely. And that's what I'm going to jump into. That's our AMS verified. So it's and I'll say this on a super high level. It's a great question. So here's the funny thing about AMS. Most clients traditionally come to AMS from an RPO perspective, right? We have thousands of people who are dedicated recruiters, experts in their field, who eat, live, and breathe recruitment. And then parallel to that, we have a very strong advisory business that works with blue chip clients from all over the world to literally transform their tech. And within that advisory capacity, we are partnering with some of the companies that are here today, and delivering on their behalf as implementation partners and alike. And in parallel to that, we're also helping clients and providers bridge the gap with Verified. Verified's goal is to remove the emotion, to remove the bias, to allow users to give input. So the market to give input, to allow the vendors to give input and showcase themselves in a taxonomy way that is matching not only how vendors see themselves, but in normal consumer language, right? Of what somebody might be looking for, but also to build upon our expertise of being in the weeds, of working for thousands of clients using their tech and literally understanding what's working and what isn't, and combining all of those things in a very transparent platform to allow somebody to then get closer to a logical decision path to move their needle in the right direction. Building new tech is difficult. And at the end of the day, everyone says they want to simplify. But I think the word simplify is a very difficult word to achieve these days. When we look at enterprise investment that has very deep roots that are very hard to unplug and change on a wit's end, right? And I think that's the craftiness that needs to be handled with much care. And at the same time, right, recruitment services really make up the majority of the spend, right? So there's $400 billion spent in agency and RPO. And marketing spend is 14 billion versus TA tech spend is 2 billion. So the area here is massive. And the convergence is there. And I'll showcase two examples here of partners we've worked at. But at the end of the day, right, like Fetcher is going to source while you sleep, and Carrot is going to interview while you sleep. And right, it's this convergence of SaaS and services basically coming in, and that's your tech space now. This is a whole new ball game, and this is where everyone is moving to. But the challenge again is, understanding what's happening in the space and taking this traditional kind of source, engage, select, hire, right, and then layering that intelligence to really kind of get some sense on how to manage these multiple vendor relationships. And at the end of the day, this is why we say the people still very much matter, because within all of this, you need transformation for the bridge to actually not collapse while companies are walking on it, right? There's so much going on, right? This is kind of what I do. I implement these large scale initiatives. And one of the things that everyone loves me and hates me for at the same time, and this is a true story, is when I start peeling the onion, like there's like a never ending layer of onion that I peel to help companies get to the truth. And that sometimes is very hard to fathom, right? But the truth is what we're trying to tackle here, to problem solve, right? Because only with that can we directionally shift what we're trying to get to, right? And so this transformational expert need remains very heavy, but at the same time, very much opportunistic area for automation against the entire realm. And some of you that are here today, right, this is what you do. You layer that automation to help improve and to help solve a problem area that a client is facing, to help them get closer to that convergence. But that succeeds through people advising correctly and accurately so that we don't misstate kind of what's going to happen. And some examples, right, of areas where kind of the maturity of the market is not at its highest, right? Executive recruiting, what has changed there? What has changed there? Where do we see a better, faster, smarter, stronger, data-enabled, automated way of recruiting executives? Nothing has changed there, right? Early careers, right? Attracting those candidates with no history that don't understand or have a relationship with you, right? The brand matters. The brand and the experience matters. And again, right? And Glassdoor is one example. Now we're getting into Google reviews. And by the way, now we're going to start asking Chat GPT, what do they think of an employer? Let's not forget about that. Let's not forget about that. Let's not forget about Twitter. Let's not forget about all of the noise. And now there are tools that take away the noise and converge that, right? So some examples right here, these are all opportunity to build and optimize for these different kind of personas. And that's that layer of process and tech and automation that will make the difference, right? And you know, the evolution here is continuing as well. So direct sourcing, right? To give another example, right? Will hire, live hire, TalentNet, right? We still need people to run them, but the role is different. We call them talent curators, right? It's all changing, and we need to very much keep up. So you know, some priorities. And by the way, please don't take this as a definitive list. There are thousands, right? I can talk on this for hours, and if anybody wants to buy me a schnitzel in New York, I will talk to you for days on this, right? I'll take you up on it, no problem, right? But it has to be a schnitzel. Right? Priorities, right? The digitalization of the experience. I know we're all sick and tired of the word experience because everyone uses it, but it matters. It really does. And it's taking that different lens look of the full digitalization, not aspects. Like one of the things that I really care about is when we partially digitalize something while keeping something the total opposite. That's creating more friction. It must be thoughtful. It must be curated. It must make sense, right? Acquiring and retaining, you know, difficult skills or skills that are not readily available. DEI will continue to evolve, right? And the way we approach it and the way we handle it and the care that it gets. Enhanced internal mobility, another one that I think, and again, talent marketplaces and all this stuff, a lot of great tools out there. Are they fully solving the problem yet? No. There's a lot of opportunity here still. There is a lot of opportunity to continue to get better. Is the needle already past that 5, moving in the positive? I would say 100%. But again, these priorities continue to be there. And as the demand and as the feedback comes in, these tools are going to continue to very much evolve, right? The race to reskill, we talked about new roles that are coming up previously with talent curators. That's requiring different skill set. It's requiring a different agility, a different way of working. So the race to reskill, I think, will be there for a very long time. Very long time. And having a holistic view on talent. When I say holistic, is talent comes from all sorts of different areas, and the way we procure talent is changing. And of course, our favorite word, the dexterity, hiring for future dexterity and capability. That's a whole other area. Are we really trying to stay ahead, or are we continuously playing catch up? Right, and that leads to some trends in specific tools, right? Programmatic, right? Programmatic advertising tries to take emotion away. One of my favorite examples, and I've been in the recruiting spaces, right? When Monster was the big monster, in a positive sense, I used to have recruiters who would swear by only Monster because the rep was there, having lunch every week, going for sushi, taking them to the NBA box, Madison Square Garden, and everything else. The relationships were there. And it was perfectly fine at the time. That's the way we did business. That's the way we worked. And that's the knowledge they brought. But guess what? At the time, what would the Monster rep do when they would visit the client? Does anybody want to answer that? What did they bring with them every time? Ward, you know
Sales
the
sheet
answer.
or their pricing sheet or something crazy like that.
Close, but off. Key performance metrics.
Ah,
They might not have told you what works for you because that data was not so ready at the time, but they definitely told you 7 stories how Monster did well to move the needle in something they were doing, right? They had a performance metric, right? They were trying to be a step ahead to motivate the engagement and conversion, right? And programmatic is taking away that because it's a very heavy data-driven point. And data does not lie if we take the time to implement it the right way, right? Social sourcing. And when I say social, it's everything, right? It's digital sourcing, right? Candidate relationship management, really talent relationship management is more favorite from my perspective, right? It's holistic talent relationship management, right? Talent comes from all sorts of parts of the world. They thrive in different communities. They use different tools. They work in different ways. How do we manage those relationships holistically and effectively? Scheduling tools, one of my favorite topics, right? Going away from the manual work of Outlook scheduling, which takes up thousands of hours of a company and costs millions of dollars, right? Matching systems. And that's kind of 5 and 6, I think, partially share the same platform here, but really matching is critical, right? Smart match that really takes in the AI and the machine learning, right? To really help recruiters save time and look at optimized profiles up front, but in a way that is not creating adverse impact, in a way that's keeping the DEI safe, right? In a way that's actually taking into account skill taxonomy. And I've experienced this being a job seeker, right? I've to give an example, a real one, right? I've implemented success factors. When I interviewed with somebody who was searching for somebody who implements Workday, they said, "Oh, you're definitely not a fit for this." 20 years of implementing talent tech, the person didn't understand that these were similar tools. And that's a big problem in the space, and it's a big opportunity in the tech, because there we can actually bridge the gap of success and make success better for everybody and make it more efficient and transparently show that and showcase that data. So the opportunity is immense, right? So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to pass the slide. I've said a little bit about what AMS Verified is, so I'm going to show you a couple of real screenshots here, Ezra, and I think you'll like some of the key benefits here. Ward, keep me honest on time here. How much time do we have, so I can calibrate a little bit?
I'd say about 20 minutes to.
Okay. All right. So I'll take 5 to 10 minutes to finish up here, and then hopefully we'll have some question time as well baked in, or conversation time, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
Awesome, right? So I'm not going to read this to you, but at the end of the day, right, the goal of this platform is really to help everyone optimize the tech making decisions and really derive value from their investments, right? And the idea is to bring these platforms together into our Verified, right? So, it's really the fact that we want to go beyond beyond reviews. And I said this before, right? We have delivered, we have delivered solutions to hundreds of blue chip companies. And some of this input is really critical from us. And at the same time, we want it to be from clients. We want it to be from industry, from talent leaders. And we want the actual vendors to go in and give their input on what works, what doesn't. And bringing together these groups in a forum is really what's going to help jumpstart the procurement process, because we're creating an opportunity of fluidity. We're creating an opportunity of relevant content, instead of just a random review site with 5 stars on why this tool works. And we're focusing on functionality by helping bridge the gap with this taxonomy that will obviously evolve as the market evolves, as additional things come into play, right? So obviously search is important, and we talked about the taxonomy here, but if you look, right, it's having these categories that are going to continue to evolve and helping folks really get in there to understand what they are getting themselves into and what software falls into these categories, so they can have a comparative view, right? And then getting into the details, allowing the benefits to shine through. So detailed descriptions of the software, which I think is really difficult to actually find, because when I try to research, I'm going 75 pages deep. But if I'm a talent acquisition advisor, just give me a sec here, I don't see all the faces. If I'm a talent acquisition advisor, right, I have a difficult time understanding what somebody's saying about themselves, right? So we want to kind of make this a little bit easier and transparent by putting it all in a platform that kind of takes away the noise. And really allowing the user to go deeper, right? So I can talk to an expert if I want, right? So when you click here, it'll connect you to somebody who's literally implemented hundreds of CRMs, right? It's going to show me other competitors, right? It's going to show me a product page, right? It's going to give me filtering options. And Ezra, here's what we talked about before, right? It's going to literally let me do a true side-by-side compare. Now, as a TA leader, I've never seen anything like this, because again, if I'm trying to make something for my boss, right, who's a head of HR, who wants everything on a single page, who's so sick and tired of all this tech jargon that they don't understand, right? This is going to hopefully bridge some of that gap and help people hold hands in peace to kind of get on that mission together, right? And that's what we're trying to accomplish here, right? And then these side-by-side comparisons go deep, right? So now it's showing you, okay, here's what you selected. And again, these are just 3 random examples that we put together for your presentation here. And then we can keep adding, right? Okay, you know what? Oh, wow, we were talking about some of those in the bottom. Let's add those as well. And let's kind of get a feel for what's really differentiated, right? And then the idea is to really bring that to conversation. And at the same time, if you're a vendor, you're able to kind of get insights, right? Because vendors have access, and you can kind of see what's going on. Like, oh, wait a minute, right? Here's kind of what the model is saying. Here's kind of where the priorities are. Here's what people are searching, right? And really getting an opportunity to then use that to highlight your product, and really showcase to talent acquisition leaders the way that they need to understand your product, so that there's an opportunity. And I like the three words that are used here, to really be clear, concise, and accurate, right? Let's get rid of the sales fluff. Let's give the users an opportunity to actually learn and connect, because they're searching for something specific. And let's find a way to connect that, right? Because the other problem is the following. The market has a bias on what the tools do. Any tool that I throw out there, right? So half of the market doesn't even know that 3/4 of the tools do 5 other things well that nobody ever talked to them about. And so this is part of the opportunity area as well that we're solving, to saying, okay, did you know software A also does these 5 other things really well, and they've done it for these kind of industries, and they've solved challenges in this area. So you may not have known that, right? And so it's bringing that clarity, right, from all this madness that's out there on the internet, to a single showcasing of the product. And the other thing is, we allow the opportunity for people looking to change. So this area talks about the section we have called Optimize Tech, right? This is where we will throw in our people to help, or we'll connect with your people, depending on how we've set up our relationship and what tech we're talking about, right? So that if somebody actually needs help, to say, okay, I have a certain tool, but I'm ready to go to the next level, right? I did a basic implementation 5 years ago. I'm kind of using 20% of the functionality. It's time to grow. It's time to develop. Help me get this to the next level. Can I talk to somebody? Can I chat with somebody? Can you show me other examples of how this is improved? We're not going to let people fall off. We're allowing the platform to have this interactivity, so that the relationship can develop, right? And then further, the reviews are going to take it super deep, right? Because we're going to talk about, everything from implementation to finance, to configuration, to user experience, support, and allow true vetted feedback to occur. Feedback that we allow both the user to vet, but we also allow the vendor to challenge and clarify, right? We want it to be a transparent tool to facilitate a connection, a human connection, to make a good match, so that there's actually a way to move forward and get this to a proper successful implementation. And of course, case studies. Case studies are super important. We want the platform to house those as well. We want it to be searchable. We want it to be categorized. So again, imagine when you're kind of in this platform and you're searching, it's going to give you everything, right? From the reviews to the similar software, to the categories, to the did you know this tool also does this, that, and the other thing, and to examples of success stories that have worked, real stories in real market with real clients, so that there's a real wealth of true information to kind of bridge that gap. And of course, the opportunity to sign up for news and updates that vendors might have that are going to come in. So again, living, breathing, not this like, let's just make a profile page and let's just walk away because it's going to get SEO'd and everybody wins. This is not what this is trying to do. This is about creating a living, breathing platform that's going to evolve as the tech evolves, and continue to tell the story of the evolution of the tech, rather than a moment in time that Google picked up because some, some article somebody wrote 10 years ago got optimized at the highest level, and that's what everyone keeps finding. We're battling that. We're bringing transparency, and we're bringing a connection, and we're bringing relevancy to the provider and the client so that we can move forward and make good business decisions together, right? And analytics, right? We talk about analytics, right? So we're going to build analytics in there, right? We eat and live and breathe this stuff, and we want to show performance metrics. We want to show you how your page is doing. We want to show you how it's living or not living, right? Because those are all insights. And we're going to allow you to further showcase, get on the leaderboard, and do things like that. Further breaking down into company types, sizes of industries, size of employees, and all those kind of things. So lots of real data. Again, why? Because I think we don't talk about it as let's say consultancy and partner. Who are we actually targeting? Are we targeting the wrong people? Right? Are medium-sized companies not getting the love that they should be getting, and they want the love? Or are we over-targeting another area that's not making sense, right? So let's, again, converge, look at some real data that will help you action better, help us build the right content, and help people find, again, the match for what they're looking for so that they can make a better planning and business decision. And obviously, we're going to have a lead board, and you're going to be able to communicate with them and, take business forward. So I'm at the end, right? And these are just three kind of learnings. I think there's a lot to say here. And I'm not going to repeat what's written. I mean, to me, what's really important here is that we've built a really, I think, easy to use, relevant community that's really going to help bridge the gap of knowledge, of information, and connectivity that does not exist really in a healthy way in the tech space. And we're going to make it easier for the TA teams and for providers to really get together and try to make sense of all the noise that's there, and have relevant conversations around their business challenges to hopefully move the needle and create some really great partnerships down the line that will stick and that will be relevant and hopefully be showcased in those case studies that we talked about as success stories as we move forward and converge in the next generation of the platform and as everything changes. So hopefully this has sparked a little bit of kind of insight and excitement as to what we're trying to do and the problems we're trying to solve. But I think the opportunity is massive, and I hope many of you who aren't engaged with us will consider in one way or another and take it from there. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, amazing, Mio. And I don't see any unanswered questions at the moment, but I came up with a few of my own that I thought about here. And with the verified solution, I guess, what was the inspiration? I hear where you're going with it, which is fantastic. And Ezra's right, like G2 Crowd and Trust Radius and Glassdoor and all those. There needs to be something more for the HR tech stack, particularly TA tech, because you're right. There's a lot of, what do you call it? Overemphasizing features that aren't quite yet baked into the product kind of things going on. So
yeah,
this is nice to be able to compare them side by side and, but to have that transparency. So what was the inspiration, as an RPO that's expanded into other areas, what was the inspiration to launch Verified versus something else?
So I think it's a combination of, we had some new leadership come in around innovation. So number one, number two, AMS, it's where we are in our business. So a lot of our clients ask, well, how would you advise us on this? And it's always kind of the consultant coming in and saying, well, here's what we've seen. And it's always like a showcase of 100, right? And we want to say, well, we don't want to be in a situation of taking a side. Because we don't have a side. Here's the funny thing. I don't have a side because what I've experienced is there's a fit for everybody, but the problem is finding that fit, right? I think a lot of the tools on the market, most tools, are great in what they do, but it's finding that right customer, right? If you're looking for a simple, like there are a lot of tools, and I'm just going to give an example without naming a tool, right? But there are tools that are super simple and do amazing work, but the premise is keeping it simple. And there are a lot of clients who say they want a simple tool, but they haven't written down what they actually need and gone through and then they end up hating the simple tool because it's not flexible and customizable. But it's not the tool's fault, right? It was a bad match. It was a bad match. Either somebody oversold and overpromised, or the person procuring didn't understand the limitation, right? And so what we want to do is avoid that you implemented something and then it's like, well, software X, here's my list of 100 improvements I want you to make, and all of a sudden we're getting angry with product and all this. That's useless, right? It's not productive, because then it's like, well, I'm the big client, I'm spending all this money with you, and I want you to switch your entire roadmap. That's not product management, folks. We all know that that's not product management. That's not what moves our businesses. What moves our businesses is sticking to our strategy, listening to the collective, right? And moving the needle for the mass. And that's what we all have to remain honest to, right? And that's why if at the beginning we can help by really bridging that gap of knowledge, learning, education, hand-holding, collaboration, we feel that it's going to go in a better direction for everybody.
That's great. That's great inspiration. Thanks for sharing that. And I see a couple hands up. We'll start at the top of the list I see anyway. Katrina, do you have a question for Mio?
Yeah, I wanted to know if part of the process is there's some sort of intake form, whether it's digital or with a consultant, that you would say you'd be able to take in data and kind of use that to figure out what their best tech stack would look like based on what they already have and what holes they've identified. And then another question was, is there a way to split up the personas? Because how a CTO is going to shop for something or research something is much different than perhaps, a recruiter. You know what I mean?
So totally. So question number one, yes, there's an ability for somebody to go in and say, here's my tech stack. How can I optimize? And that's all going in the back as digitable, reportable, emailable, communicatable, the works, and in a way that will enable the handholding. There's the ability for them to say, I want help with this tech stack. Can I talk to somebody? Right? There's all of the above. There's can I get a demo from this vendor? Right? So all of that is baked in. Second question, I don't know what the strategy is from the team running the tool. So in my last slide, I've added the owner of Verified. His name is Jonathan. He's one of our tech leaders as well. But I think your point is very well taken, right? Our first target was, how do we bond with talent acquisition leaders who are looking to build the strategy and helping bridge the gap? And I agree with you. We need to make sure that we can also continue to evolve. And I think one of your recommendations here will probably sit really well with our team if they're not already considering it, right? And how do we now make this tech ready too for the C-level, CTO level folks who might be looking at this a little bit differently, so that we can package that for them as well. Great opportunity area here. So thank you for that. I think Thomas was also
Thomas,
yeah.
Thanks. It was really quite an eye opener. So my question is your engagement primarily with enterprises who are wanting to understand better about their tech stack, or for instance, if I'm an HR tech vendor in the talent acquisition space, then how do I work with AMS?
You're gonna get verified, right? That's and then that's part one. And then of course, yes, the idea is both. We want the vendors, and we want talent acquisition professionals to go in and join, and we want them to be part of this. We want them to be able to have access to the portal to learn, to compare, right? All of that. But we want you to be a part of it, to answer questions, to add information, to make sure your product knowledge is up to date. One of the biggest problems that's out there, right, is, and that's, I've challenged myself before I make the statement, is if I search for any product, the amount of pages that talk to everything that the product does, never a summary, right? And if I'm shopping, right, think about the car window sticker, right? One of the greatest inventions of all time, in my opinion, is the window sticker in a car dealership. It takes the emotion and everything out of the purchase discussion, because everything you need to know to make a decision about that car, right, is on that window sticker. We're giving the decision makers the window sticker, but we're connecting the car company to that window sticker in real time, so that if the window sticker needs to change, it's changing as they're looking at it, right?
Yeah. So is AMS verified US centric, or it's global?
This is a global, they're global vendors here, right? I mean, all of our clients, or most, or many of our clients are global, and we are a global company. And obviously this is not about a tool that works only in the US, or, right? A lot of these tools there are global in nature, and offer value to many different countries and companies and industries. And, right.
And I
it's
guess
all
we,
of that.
and I guess we could look at the website to understand the process and so on, right?
Absolutely. Or give me or Jonathan a shout, and we'll connect you with the right teams. We're happy to help with that.
Mio, we're gonna have to get out of here and let the next session start coming in. That was a fantastic presentation and great insights. I had not been familiar with the full scope of service, and this verified product, it's pretty far along in development and maturity, or is it like middle of the game, or where are you in terms of, you know, getting the data into the system and all that?
It's like, I think we have over 150 verified vendors already.
Okay.
And they're adding all the time.
Okay.
Right. So where it's
well,
launched,
you'll probably get more after today.
looking forward to it.